guys. Well, we're at the in terms of the squad and stuff, we're at the same. We've got the same numbers as we did for Columbus at the weekend. Gibbs, Ujoa out, Figal nearly back, but probably Wednesday will come too soon. Didn't train with the group this morning. You probably saw this morning there was two groups. The guys that played on Saturday did slightly less, a bit of a recovery, and the boys that didn't just did a little bit of a top up just to get them ready for the next 4 games. It's a tough stretch this, in terms of particularly with the roster that we've got available at this moment in time. So what you saw on Saturday is probably what you're going to see on Wednesday night in terms of sort of like the permutations and the players available. And I think we're now at the point where we've probably talked a lot this season about what we're going to do, what we would like to see. And I think now is probably the time to probably say very little and just to focus, say, look, let's do our talking on the pitch. We're excited to come back to our own stadium. It seems like an age since we last played here. We've been on the road now for last 4 games, I think it is, last 4 games.
It's been a month, actually.
Yeah, it's been a month on the road, and that takes its toll in terms of going to away grounds. We're excited to get back to our favourite stadium. And like I say, I want us to do the talking on the field about what we're going to do, about what we need to do. Is mathematically still possible. My mindset is that we can still do it. It has to be that mindset. I've told that the players this morning, and I've said to the players that if anyone doesn't have that same mindset, please come and knock on my door, and they can have the rest of the season off, because I only want people that truly believe that we can mathematically do it. We're going to have to probably do something really, really special, but I think we've got a group that I still believe that can do that. I want a performance. We need a performance, and we need results, and that's the business that we're in. We're in a results business where we need results, every single one of us, and we're all playing, we're all under the microscope, and we want to make sure that we end the season well, and I think that's it.
All right, we'll get started with questions now. First, we're going to go to Lauren and then Michelle.
Thanks, Rafa. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Lauren.
This is Sammy's first season with first team. Can you just talk to us about his development as a player and growth on and off the pitch this season?
Sammy, did you say?
Yes, Sammy.
Yeah. Well, I think what we've seen from Sammy is at the start of the season he was on the USL roster. He had a really good pre-season. Caught my eye, made an impact. We then brought him into the MLS roster, and deservedly so. Made his debut against Cincinnati. Did a couple of substitute appearances. I think he came on against Atlanta. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then just when we were going into a real hard stretch of games every 2 or 3 days, he got injured and was out for a large section of the season. And then when he came back, he found it difficult because we brought Kieran Gibbs in then. We brought Kieran Gibbs, and Breck had settled into that left wing back position as well, and them two were going hand in hand together, and he found it really difficult. And I've got to say, we spoke to him about a month ago because he probably thought that there was no pathway through to him. And he asked me what he should do, and in terms of his performance levels in training, I just said, you've just got to keep persevering. You've got to keep persevering. Your chance will come. He got on in a couple of games. I thought he did okay when he came in against New York Red Bulls, and then he got his opportunity at the weekend, and for the first 40 minutes I thought he was outstanding. And then just after half time he literally just hit a brick wall. He had to come off. He signalled to come off. Physically he was shattered, and that was his first full game probably in 3-4 months. So I was really pleased with him. He offers us something really positive down the left hand side. He's a great kid, someone that wants to do well, and he's at the stage of his career now where he has to be playing regularly to get that rhythm, to get that fitness, to get that sharpness, to get that consistency, and hopefully he can get that in the last 5 games.
Next question, Michelle.
Okay, Phil, I made a little chart here. So, the last 6 games, the bad stretch, you've been outscored 16-1, just 1 goal over 6 games.
Yeah.
The previous 6 games before that, you scored 9 goals, and you had 15 goals during that stretch of 11 games when you guys won 7, tied 3. It's basically the same attacking players. It's still Gonzalo, it's Rodolfo, it's Robbie Robinson. So what changed? What changed? Why can you seemingly not score and the same players were scoring during that stretch? What do you think has changed? Is it a mentality issue? Is it other things? What do you think it is?
We're creating more chances. That's the bottom line. We're creating more chances in this period than what we were when we were winning games of football. So, I think you get moments like this when the goals are just not going in. It's just not quite gelling. You're missing chances. You're losing confidence. You're losing belief. I think my the balance is that you think about Saturday's game. You think automatically you think about the chances we had early on that could have changed the game. But we still made 4 individual errors for goals conceded, and that for me is a bigger crime than 1 chance missed. And that was my biggest disappointment after the game, was the individual errors that were made. We're losing lapses of concentration in games when we're in games. We're losing lapses of concentration in games when, even at 2-0, just before they scored the 3rd goal, we had control of the game a little bit, and then we concede the 3rd goal, and then it just kills all momentum, kills all belief. And that kills, I've got to say, that kills your forward play. That kills the belief of the strikers and the flair players in the team when you concede goals. And if we go in at half time 0-0, the mood of the team would have been totally different. The mood of the forwards in particular, saying, well, we're still in this game, we're still going to get another chance. When you go in at 2-0 down, there is definitely a feeling from a forwards mentality point of view as this is going to be a mountain to climb. So I'd say that the biggest crime that we've committed over these last 6 games has been our defensive performances, and you'd say that Atlanta and at Portland, I thought we defended as a team really well, but the Nashville, the Red Bulls at home, and obviously the game on Saturday, that's too many goals conceded, but too many goals conceded from individual errors rather than a system failure. And that's what we need to eradicate, and that's where we need to take accountability, and that's what we need to make sure of the next 5 games, is that individual errors, lapses of concentration, silly mistakes, at moments in games when we're really in the game, we can't afford to happen. And I sympathise with our forwards, because at this moment in time, we are asking a lot and we're demanding a lot. I'm demanding a lot of those players, because ultimately that's the top end of the pitch. That's what you're paid to do. But we still need to keep clean sheets. We still need to eradicate the errors that we're making at the bottom end of the pitch as well. Goes hand in hand.
Next question, Franco.
Hey, Phil. I wanted to ask you this on Saturday, but I know you guys had to get out of there on an away game, so I held off. With Robbie, just as a follow-up to what I asked you on Saturday, there's been a dip in his performance level since the Chile call-up, and obviously that there was a lot of blowback, especially from Chile fans, about his decision not to stick with them through the qualifying. Has that affected his confidence? You see him on the day-to-day, or is it just coincidental that he's just dipped in his performance levels? Before he left, I think he had scored 2 in the last 3 games before he went, and then since then he hasn't scored or had many shots.
Well, I think you'd have asked me that after probably Nashville. I think there was Cincinnati, Red Bulls, Nashville. I think there was a dip coming out, and rightly so. I say rightly so. There was probably understandably so, because of the. It was a big moment in his life, and he took a real brave decision, and he got a lot of criticism for it. And I've got to say, he was a real conscientious boy who probably was going backwards and forwards about whether he made the right decision or not. He probably doubted himself. He had obviously, his family have got Chilean blood, so there would have been a lot of pressure from within making that decision. So the Cincinnati game, the couple of games after that, we expected a little bit of a dip. Since then, I'd say that the Atlanta game, the Portland game, the only 2 things missing was the goals. The Red Bulls performance away, we had another chance. So you're thinking about the 4 games since then, he's had opportunities to score. So I'd say that the performance levels, yes, have been acceptable. The thing that's been missing is the goals. With Robbie, goals mean an awful lot to him because he feels if he's contributing to the team. And it's not like you've got the Gonzalo situation where he's got the experience, Gonzalo, to accept that he's not going to score in every game, but also have the experience to understand that he can still affect a game with his performance, with an assist, with his pressing or whatever. With Robbie, he measures his performances on goals or assists alone, and because he's had those chances and they've not gone for him, he's probably in a state now where he feels as if he's not playing at his level. His all-round play, his movement, his ability to press the ball has been fantastic. The goal came on Saturday because of his ability to press. It's just that the goal hasn't been going in for him, and I think that's what you get the difference between someone that's been at the top of the game with real experience to someone that is just starting in the game. He's 18 months into his professional career, and he's probably beating himself up by a couple of the chances that have gone missing where he thinks, I should have, could have, would have. And what I would say that he has to just keep persevering. The mentality, the ruthlessness of a striker is just to keep persevering. And if he keeps showing the same attitude, he will get into those positions and he will get those chances. And eventually that goal will come.
Next question, Ian, then Steve.
Hey, Phil. You mentioned that the difference between going into the locker room 0-0 as opposed to 2 now. And I'm wondering how you as the manager, how that message changes so fast and what you have to rethink what you're going to get your team to think, and if you as a manager are reassessing what your message is going to be at the halftime, after full time, like what happens for you as a manager in that moment to figure out what is the message that I need to send to this team in order to get the most out of them?
Well, I think on Saturday or any game at half time, particularly Saturday, there was, if the half would have ended at 40 minutes, you would have had a team that would have come in and said, wow, we're in this game, we feel really positive, we're creating chances, we're on the front foot, we're trying to press. And then all of a sudden, in the space of 3 minutes, we're 2-0 down. So what happens then is you get a lot of emotion. You get a lot of emotion, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration coming in at half time, because ultimately your world changes in a short space of time. You don't have time to analyse and evaluate where you went wrong or right. So I'd say that there was a lot of emotion at half-time on Saturday, and as a manager you've got to remove yourself from that emotion and still probably come up with a plan for the second half that gives you the best opportunity to win the game or to stay in the game. We wanted them, and my experience of this team is that I wanted them to stay in the game for as long as possible, to keep the scoreline at 2-0, because we know that this team, once concede 2 goals, can go on to concede 3, 4, 5 goals. We've seen it this season. That's my experience of this team. There's no in between. So I wanted to stabilise at half time. I wanted to get rid of the emotion at half time. I wanted them to say, right, let's get to 70 minutes 2-0. Let's get real solidity and control in the game. And then we knew with Federico, with Rodolfo, with Carranza, we could make the changes to then go and attack the last 20 to 30 minutes, and it would take 1 goal and then they'd get nervous. Ultimately, we made a mistake just after half time that kills the game plan. And then all of a sudden you're thinking about the 5 games or 4 games in the next 10 days, and you're thinking about resting players, bringing Robbie and Gonzalo off, not putting Rodolfo on, because then you're thinking about damage limitation, about protecting players. They were thinking the same. They made 5 subs, we made 4 subs, 5 subs. So as a manager, you've got to stay in the moment for as long as possible without letting emotion get into you. Even though on Saturday, the anger and frustration, I felt the same, because, like I say, for the first 35 to 40 minutes, I felt totally in control of everything that we're doing. Our game plan was working, and then we just fell to pieces in 5 minutes, and that was my anger, and that was the team angers at half time.
Next question, Steve.
And I know you've talked about, you've still got games to go, mathematically possible. How focused are you on what you're going to do in the close season, and how important is it for the players that potentially are on the brink that you're not sure about, that it's their little window to maybe impress or do whatever?
Yeah, well, Steve, I am a planner. I don't. The train can't stop. You've got to start thinking about every eventuality. You've got to start planning for next season. The USL finish on Friday. We've got big conversations to have with a lot of those players in terms of their futures. So the world just doesn't stop because you lose a game 4-0. And me and Chris have been planning now for next season because of the sanctions. Now we've probably been planning for the last 3 months because we're going to have to really, really find ways of making us competitive next year. So yes, I would say that players are playing for their futures. It happens in this league, and it's one of the most brutal leagues in the world where you're coming towards the end of a season and literally come the last game of the season you're out of a job. And there's not many situations that I've experienced in my career when I've been around and involved in football where yes, somebody's coming to the end of the contract. It's either their choice or an age thing. It's either a retirement or their choice to see out their contract. Ultimately, in this football league, you have the situations where 5 or 6 of our players are coming to the end of their contracts and they'll not know their futures until after the New England game on the 7th of November. Hopefully longer than that if we're in the playoffs. And so there is subconsciously you're thinking about we've got players in our team that are worried about their futures, that's going to affect their families, that's going to affect their financial status in their careers, in their lives. So they are fighting for their lives, and I hope that that's their motivation over the next 5 games. They're playing for their future at Inter Miami and for their future in football. Because if it's not at Inter Miami, other clubs are watching us and saying, can we take X, Y, Z? Because the whole world knows that we've got players coming to the end of their contracts, because we know that there's other clubs, we're watching other players at other clubs in the same situation. So you've got to use that as a positive. You can't let that suffocate you. It's a situation that I discussed at length with all my US-based staff that have experienced this, because it's, about a month ago, I'm like, look, should we go to these players and start offering contracts, tell them what they're doing in their futures? Because I'm a planner, I like to give real good communication. But ultimately, this league is brutal. You get to the end of the season and you are given a new contract or you're not. And it's so admirable that these players can cope, can deal, can handle this type of situation. I think it's amazing the way that they handle it. And I hope over the next 5 games that we use this as our motivation as a group, as a set of players to heighten the performance levels, to earn a new contract at this football club.
Neil Davidson, Canadian Press.
Thank you. Phil, as you know, Toronto was eliminated from playoff contention on the weekend, but they were also able to field all 3 of their designated players at the same time for the first time in a long time. Yeah. I'm wondering, what are you expecting for Toronto when they visit? Certainly there was no shortage of talking points in the last game when you met up here.
Yeah. What were the talking points, Neil?
Well, there was Toronto had a goal that was
I'm joking, Neil, I'm joking.
Oh, okay.
I'm joking. Sorry, it's English humour. Look, I look at Canada's, I look at Toronto's roster, and I see a roster with lots of talented players. I look at the Canadian national team and I see a team that's getting better and better, and I see a lot of those players playing in the Toronto team as well. So I think their position in terms of the quality that they've got is totally false. It's totally false. I think if you think about Toronto next year, they will be fighting for a playoff place, or they'll be up at the top end of the table if they make 1 or 2 changes. I'm sure of that, because their roster is too good to be at the bottom of the league. Pozuelo is a player that I think is probably one of the best number 10s that we've played against this year. So him coming back at the weekend, maybe playing against us on Wednesday, will be a big task for us. And like I say, I think they're a really talented team that on their day they can challenge anyone in the league. And yes, we've had 2 really good games against them in terms of positive results. The game up in Toronto was probably one of our poorest performances in terms of fluidity, and we got away with that one in terms of the result there. But I do look at Toronto, and I have looked at Toronto even when Chris was in charge. I looked at Toronto and thought that they had a real talented roster. A roster that should be up near the top of the league, not near the bottom of the league. So we're giving them the full respect.
Last question, Michelle.
Okay. Sorry. I want to ask you about Nico. We haven't really talked much about him, but when I load my little chart here, there is really a constant. The one constant in the roster is that during that stretch of 11 games, Nico was back there every single game, and you talked a lot during that period about, and the players did, about the consistency of that back three, how they worked together so well.
Yeah.
McCoon, LGP, and you talked even about the language and how they played so well together. Ever since Nico went out in the 38th minute of that Red Bulls game, things have not gone well. How much do you think, I know it's just one player on a team, but how much of a factor is Nico, physically, emotionally, in the locker room, everything? He's a pretty fiery guy. And how much has losing him meant? How much would it mean to get him back for the next stretch?
He's a winner. He's a winner. And conceding goals hurts him. And the modern day defender, I think you'd probably say that probably defending is probably the second thing on their mind. They're probably thinking about attacking. The modern day defender, the defend first, attack second mentality of when I was growing up is now flipped the other way, and that's because of the modern game. Nico is a throwback to the old school type mentality. Me and my coaches do a chart every day when we have possession games or small-sided games, and we run a tally of which players are in the winning teams, and we do a percentage every single week at the end of a week just to see who the real winners is. And Nico Figal is in the top 3 every week because if he's on a team, that team 99.9% of the time wins, and we always have a little bet between the coaching staff on a Friday morning when we have the little 3-round day before the game, and Jason will put the teams up on the board, and I just look, where's Figal? Because Figal's team normally wins, because that's the impact he has on his teammates. He's infectious. He throws himself at the ball. He wants to win every single game, a possession game, a small-sided game, a game on a Saturday. He wants to win, and that mentality spreads to people around him. That's probably the main thing. But secondly, I think the communication in that back three, I think, is vitally important. I think when you have 3 Spanish-speaking people, the communication was really good. The understanding was really good. Their movements were all in sync. They knew each other. They knew what they were going to do, and I think that really helped Christian McCoon in terms of that communication. It helped Leandro Perez in terms of the communication. And that's something that we have missed. It gives that back three a composure. And we're doing everything possible to speed up his recovery to get him back as quick as we possibly can, because of the things that I've just spoke about, because of the fact that when he plays, we have a real big percentage chance of winning games of football. And he knows that. We believe in him. We're doing everything possible. And now we're in the hands of human nature, recovery, for him to get back, and that's what you've got to do when players are out injured. You've not got to rush them back. You've got to give them the correct amount of time. He's 100% type of guy. He's not somebody that you can just drift back into training and he'll take his time. He'll come back into training and start going round trying to be a winner, and we need that type of character in this football club for as long as we possibly can.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Rafa.